Coming tonight. I'm Mayor Mike Concanon. I know most of you, I think, as I look around. For those watching and listening at home, thank you for joining us. And for those who view this in the future, hopefully you get some questions answered tonight. If there's any lingering questions or something you think of after the fact, please feel free to reach out to us. This is our Q&A session on the rollout of the trash pickup program. As you know, we rolled out the recycling portion last July, and we appreciate your patience as we did that. We know it was a change, and change is difficult. In Woburn, we had a particular way of dealing with trash and recycling for many, many years, and this represented a change. It represented a change primarily driven by the industry and the way that trash and recycling is dealt with in the country and certainly in the Northeast and in Massachusetts. So the options to continue with the way we had been doing things were limited, if non-existent. So we were going to go to automation one way or the other. If you look around all the communities around us, they've gone that way, and it was inevitable. So what we tried to do was phase in this change. We figured if we started with the recycling, that component last year, that might be a way to try to get people comfortable with this. Maybe we could learn from the way we rolled out the recycling program so that when we went to the full trash change this July, there might be some lessons that we'd learn and we could make it smoother this time around. So as I said, we do have FAQs, frequently asked questions, that we've been posting and sharing throughout the recycle transition, and we've been trying to populate them with trash-related questions as well. Anything that comes up tonight or after the fact will be added to those FAQs so that there'll be one location to try to learn as much as you can about the logistics of how this will all work. So consider that FAQ page as a work in progress, something that gets added to based on additional questions that come up. So tonight we have representatives from Waste Management and the Board of Health here to help answer questions. Samantha Stone is also here from my office. This team has been working on the FAQ component and the logistics of rolling this out. We're also joined by a couple of members of the City Council. They've been involved in understanding the program and sharing information and trying to get the word out so that this next phase of change is as smooth as it can be. I've been asked before if we could have continued doing trash pickup the way we had been, would there have been a significant increase in cost? And the answer is yes. If we could find somebody to do what we had been doing, it would have cost more money, considerably more money. So not only was this inevitable in that the service of manual pickup was evaporating, if we were to find somebody, it would have cost considerably more. In a 3-year contract, it would have cost $2 to $3+ million more if we had been able to do what we had done. That was one of the central questions I have been asked throughout this process. Why are we doing this? We're doing it because we had to, and because it is, in effect, a cost savings. So those are probably the two primary questions I've been asked over the last year. So anyway, as I said, we're joined by the folks who have been working on this plan for a while, those who are providing the service. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to them. I think they have a PowerPoint and a bit of information they'd like to share right off the bat, and then we can open up to questions after that. Okay? Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. I am Megan Doherty. I'm from the Board of Health. The Board of Health in the City of Woburn oversees the trash and recycling contract. So if you ever have any questions, concerns, you would contact my office. I have here tonight from Waste Management, Kathy Pereira. She is the Senior District Manager, and Christine DeRosa, who is the Senior Account Executive on the public sector. So they're here tonight to give a little presentation on what we are going to expect come July 1 and answer hopefully any questions or concerns that you may have.
Hello, thanks for coming. So it's a very simple PowerPoint. I just want to put that out there. What I wanted to do is start with a guide. So at the beginning of June, you're going to be getting a flyer in the mail that's going to talk about the changes you will see on July 1st. What I'm going to do now is walk you through some of those changes. So starting on June 23rd, in the following 7 days, you will be receiving your 96-gallon trash cart. It will be the same size as your recycling cart. And you put it out on the curb, and we'll come by, we pick it up, different truck, but same automatic arm will come and dump the trash into the truck. So your first thought is probably going to be, what if I can't fit everything into the trash toter? Because the trash has to be the same guidelines with the recycling, where the lid has to be closed, the lid has to be closed on the trash. So your first thought is, I'm going to have too much trash. What happens if I have too much trash? So the city of Woburn is going to have, and I don't think the locations have been decided yet, what we call an overflow bag. And you can go purchase an overflow bag and put any excess trash you have in that bag and place it next to the toter. And when our driver comes to your house, he will dump the toter, then take the trash bag and put it into the truck and then drive off. You also have the option, like you did with the recycling barrel, is to lease an extra trash barrel for the year. Your next question is probably going to be, what do I do with things that don't fit into the barrel? So what we call that is a bulk. And what you can do starting on July 1st is you can either call our 1-800 number, or you can go onto our online portal and book a bulk appointment. So you just go on, you put your address in, you pick if you have a chair, a couch, and it will come back with a confirmation number, and then on the following Monday, our driver will go by and pick that up. And I'm trying to think what else. Anything else on changes you can think of?
Not really for changes, just the appointment for the bulk now.
Okay. Your first question, maybe I should have started off with this slide, is why are we going automation? There's a lot of reasons why our industry is going the automation route, and as Mayor Concanon previously said, if you drive around different towns, you probably see toters of different colors, different companies, different sizes. It is going more mainstream, and one of the major reasons is it's increased worker safety. So the driver or laborer no longer needs to get out of the truck and pick up the huge trash bag. It doesn't need to do that 1,000 times over. So now they can just sit in the cab of the seat. They joystick, the arm goes out, takes the barrel, dumps, he goes to the next house. It's faster, and what Mayor Concanon also said, it's lower operating costs because it's quicker, it's more efficient, it's one driver instead of one driver, one laborer, one driver, two laborers, and what I think is great is that it's cleaner. So now you go down into your neighborhood and you just see toters on the driveway instead of piles of trash. And it's got its environmental benefits. So hopefully the bigger recycling toter has also, and it has because you have increased your recycling tonnage, has got people going, wait a minute, I have more room in my recycling toter. I can put this in here and I can put that in there and that. But another great reason, and Kathy probably will say the same, is that it increases the number of our driver candidates. And you're probably thinking, like, what's that mean? How many we have a couple female drivers, and the reason why we're able to have female drivers is not that a female can't go on and lift the 58-pound bag. They could, is that they now just drive in the seat and they dump the barrel, so we can hire women drivers. We can hire the average age of a driver now can be a little bit older because he's not going out and doing that manual work. So those are just some of the top reasons why our industry is pushing for automation. And the next slide is something I just put in case we get any questions of what to recycle, not what to recycle. I know that's always a hot topic for some people. This is a really great site to use. It's recyclingsmartma.org, which I can give you the link and you can put it on the city's website. And you just type in what you have and it tells you where to put it. It tells you to put it in the recycling bin. It either tells you to put it in its trash, or it tells you, oh, it's textiles. You can move it, you can go somewhere else with it. That's all I really had about the program changes. I know there's probably a lot of questions, so if Kathy, if you have anything you want to input or say, or.
I think you covered everything very well, and we can see if there's any questions.
Yep. If I talk too fast, I apologize.
Thank you.
The one tallest, as tall as
Yeah. That's my name is Bill Callahan. I'm from 14 Kennedy Road.
Hello.
I'm not surprised that we are changing. As the mayor mentioned, we're probably the only town around that hasn't gone into a complete automated system. A couple of questions. I understand this is the second year of a 3-year contract with Waste Management. Last year was the first year, which went with recycle. And question you may have mentioned it, I didn't hear it, about the additional fees. If it doesn't fit in the bucket, for example, if I have a kitchen chair, it's considered bulk, and I would need to contact Waste Management and have them pick it up at $28 per item. I think what I read was $28. I think it was on the website, $28.
Yeah.
If I had a 7-foot couch, that also would be $28. So probably if I broke up the chair and put it in the barrel, it'd be a lot cheaper.
Yep.
Were these fees negotiated between the city and Waste Management last year at the beginning of the contract? Because it goes up with Freon, not Freon, et cetera, et cetera. Was those fees negotiated in the contract? And if so, will they be renegotiated 2 years from now? We see that 28 become 30, 35. That's just one question. Pardon me?
Yes, they were negotiated, yes, at the end of this 3 years.
It's another negotiation. As I look around, I believe there were 40,000 residents in Woburn. I'm just wondering where the other 39,979 are. I hope that people are aware of this, because if you drive around the city on any trash day, there are couches and file cabinets and all kinds of things laid out. I think people might be in for a shock when they put out a bookcase in July and it's not taken. So I think that it's imperative that as much information gets out to everybody as possible.
Agree. That's why that flyer is scheduled to hit your mailboxes at the beginning of June, and the flyer has all the information on the program changes. So on June 1st.
I can assume, I'm assuming in June that the amount of bookcases on the sidewalk will increase dramatically
Yep.
during the month of June. The second thing I noticed in the contract was the opportunity to purchase a second barrel for $168. Is that the figure? I think 168.
165.
Whoa,
55?
$3 cheaper.
tonight 165. June 1, 168. Okay, I'll take it tonight. Is that for the life of the property? That's not a rental? That's
That's just a rental price for the year, yeah.
A year.
It's the cost, it's for 1 whole year, so 12 months, it's the
So
cost.
every year you'd have to pay $168 for that second barrel. Okay, that was one of the bigger questions. I'm going to turn it over to you, ma'am. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I just want to clarify. Our story is straight here.
to do this. So I just want to be clear, if I have some patio furniture and it's beyond use, it needs to be, I need to get rid of it, and I have a recliner, a table, and an umbrella, is that 28 times 3 when it comes for bulk? Okay. Then the second question I have is, what about the overflow bag. How big is it, and what price range are we talking? Can I fit the recliner in it?
So they're gonna be 33 gallons, each bag. They're gonna be sold in rolls of 5 for basically $2 a bag. So you buy a roll of 5 for $10.
So if I can, break up the umbrella or something.
If you can chop up the umbrella and put it in your trash barrel, it'll go in the
Yep.
trash.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Michelle DeShawn, 15 Veteran Road, Woburn, Mass. I have a question about cost. I've been thinking of getting an additional recyclable barrel because at time and again, we sometimes put recycle in the trash because we recycle a lot in my family. So I'm definitely getting a recyclable barrel. Now I'm considering the trash. I want to know if I get both, do I get a discounted rate? Most companies will give you a rate if you do both.
It's not in the contract. It's not in the contract that we negotiated.
Were there specific companies you're speaking
No,
of?
I'm just talking about different companies in general, if you do both
Yeah.
options of buying up.
Yeah.
You can sometimes get a discount of
Yeah.
10%
Yeah.
by getting both.
Yeah, so Waste Management owns those barrels. The city of Woburn does not.
Right.
So they're responsible for repairs, they're responsible for replacements. What it is the cost that is incurred for the rental yearly of that barrel is associated with costs that were incurred. The pickup of it, the labor of somebody, picking it up. Trash is a little more expensive because that's a weekly pickup. Recycling is a little less to lease a barrel because it's only picked up bi-weekly. So unfortunately, the price of the barrels kind of goes along with what service the barrels are getting, in a way. There's a charge for the, prevailing wages that worker is, paid to pick up the barrels, the service of the barrels, the fixing of the barrels, the maintenance of the barrels. It kind of all comes as one.
And the
So,
additional tonnage.
yeah, additional amount of trash and recycling.
And I have concerns because where my parents have their barrels, it's very close to the street.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way to lock the barrels to prevent other people from dumping their trash in my barrel to avoid buying the additional bags?
So the
Is that a
only,
concern?
the only possible way you could do that is you'd have to unlock them by 7 a.m. the day of your trash and recycling, because Waste Management wouldn't have any way to get into that
Right.
barrel to empty it. You have every right to lock it until the day you put it at the,
Yep.
Yep, as long as it's gone by 7 a.m. the day of your trash or
The
recycling.
arm goes to pick it up. till the
Yeah.
next day it will fall.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's your choice. Yeah.
Okay. And and how much are the bags again?
So they would be sold in rolls of 5 for $10 a roll. So, yeah.
Okay. My mother is very upset about this.
If I could, just real quick, all of these considerations, and I'm sure many more that get brought up tonight, fairly confident in saying that we did negotiate all of these, and these are all factors that went into the best deal we could get. If there's some other good idea that comes up tonight, we'll certainly incorporate into our next round of negotiations, but I do want you to know that we met many times with Waste Management, went back and forth. We had the Board of Health, we had the city solicitor, we had the building commissioner, we had all sorts of people brainstorming the very best possible deal we could come up with to save as much money as we possibly could. We'll continue to do that in this next round, at the end of this initial contract, but if there are good ideas that we hear tonight, we'll definitely incorporate that. So, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mary DeShanis, 15 Veteran Road, Woburn, Mass. My question is why do we have to pay for the bags that if we need more room? And why can't we be given a second barrel? I put out on weekly 2 big barrels of trash. I have 5 adults living in my home, and I have a lot of trash. And why do we have to pay for bags? We pay taxes. I don't see why we have to pay for the bags, and we should be given an additional trash barrel.
Yeah. Oh, no, I understand. The contract that we negotiated with the city was, WM thought the best possible price to present to the city that worked for the city of Woburn and for all the residents in Woburn. And the free extra cart wasn't included in that, so anyone who wanted the extra cart would rent the extra cart.
But that's a lot of money. I live on a fixed income,
Yes,
okay? And there's a lot of senior citizens that live on a fixed income. And a lot of parents are on paycheck to paycheck also. I just don't think it's right.
no, but you might be, try to, see when you get the 96-gallon cart, see how many bags you can fit in. You might be actually kind of shocked, because it's not the same. Test it out with the recycling. If you get your recycling barrel empty one day, see how many bags you can fit in there, because you can fit like 4 or 5. You can fit a large volume of trash in that 96-gallon cart.
I recycle a lot, as my
Yeah.
daughter said, right?
Oh, okay.
Some weeks, I don't have room in my recycling bin, so I've been throwing it out in my regular trash, because where else am I gonna?
No, I understand. I understand the change is hard. The change is, it's after coming from a program that the city of Woburn has been on, this is a big change.
It is definitely.
Yeah.
Short answer is, if we were to provide 2 barrels to every resident in Woburn, the cost of the contract would have gone up dramatically. And it was an estimation that most people in the city aren't going to need 2 big barrels. So why burden everybody with that additional cost, and perhaps we limit it to those who might actually need the second barrel? It was a financial decision based on the needs of most people in the city. If we had provided additional carts or additional bags free, the cost of the contract would have gone up. This is the best deal we could get for this service that we're providing. It's as simple as that.
Oh, this is gonna be good.
Yeah, I got a few questions. Dennis Scott, 21 Washington Street, Woburn. I do have a question right off the bat. The barrel cost, what does actually one of those barrels cost, please? Give me a shot. I don't know. Approximately 300, 400, 500?
I don't know, from,
300? Reason I'm asking, he's gonna negotiate the next contract.
yeah.
Let's hypothetically say the average person who stays 10 years, 15 years, you're doing $168 a year. It should be in the negotiating after so many years, the barrel should be yours. Would it not be correct?
I think it's something for the city to, try
Well,
and negotiate.
I don't know if Mayor Concanon wants to speak on this.
Okay,
No, they had
but
to-
can I do want to say,
That was part of the consideration.
That was
it includes the trash.
So part of our negotiations, one of the considerations was whether the city would buy these cars instead of leasing.
Yeah.
This was the better option for us, especially as this is all new to us and we don't know how long this is gonna last, we don't know what kind of wear and tear they're gonna incur. So we figured for the first time out of the gate, this was the better option, this is more cost effective.
Initially.
When we get to the end of the contract, we have some data.
It's not in this contract, though.
We'll look at that again.
But does it make sense?
If we don't know yet. This time, this seemed to make sense. By the time we understand, after 3 years of data and, lived experience.
I didn't have that originally written down until I just heard the cost put there.
Yeah.
Are we saving, I don't know if the question should go here, the only time I get an opportunity, because everybody else, usually when you're at the council meeting, you have to wait in line, you can't ask this, you can't ask that, so I'm taking advantage of being here tonight. Sorry, folks, but that just happens to be.
No.
Are we technically, are we saving money or just not costing more money with this program? Kind of a tough question.
Is there a difference?
I don't know, I'm asking if, it would be if it isn't, it should be.
I can tell you that if we were to continue with manual
It's gonna
pickup,
go more money.
it would have been
Right.
$2.5 to $3 million.
Right.
And so I don't know how you answer the question any different than that.
So
If
you,
we stayed with what we
So
had,
we're
it would
staying-
cost more.
so
So
our
we're
cost-
saving that.
so we're saving money.
Yeah.
Okay. That would be yes, we're saving money,
Yeah.
right? Now, are we doing anything with the money we're saving?
Oh, wow.
I don't mean to be anything rude or anything, but I've actually been here going on 71 going on 72 years at 21 Washington. So it's
72.
not like I just flew in from out of town and I want to ask some questions. Now, the other question is, where the seniors downsize, where do they reach out and what, I'm sorry, what figure did I hear, $28? Is there, other than that, is that the only type of program the city offers for seniors in regards to helping? Because I have questions that basically along all the same thing.
I think
Like,
he's
is
talking
our
bulk.
program on like white items, paint, chemicals, tires? Is that something that we're working on to actually have a program?
We do those. We do.
Yeah, but do they look like that in the paper?
We do
Like Burlington does?
yeah, we do one in August, and we did one in the last 2 months. We do that.
So, but,
Hazardous waste, we do whites, we do the recycling, the $28 talking about bulk items.
whatever items I just happen to throw the 28, because I heard.
Yeah, that's
it's
the
bulk.
bulk item.
Yeah, it's gonna cost $28.
We don't share, currently, we don't have another bulk item recycling program or pickup program. This is the one we have, but we do
Okay.
have the hazardous waste. We do have tires, bulbs, batteries,
Yeah, like on those.
light items.
Now, and how many times do we do that in the city of Woburn?
It depends which one you're talking about. Tires, batteries.
Let's do the whole program.
Well, this is different, this is the hazardous waste.
I know,
This isn't the whole
okay,
program.
but how,
We do that once a year in August.
is there a chance, does it cost a lot of
Yes.
money to do this?
It costs about $20,000 to do that one piece, hazardous waste collection. Then we do the tires, and matter of fact, the council is over here, help us every time we do them, and then we have the materials recycling.
Oh, Laurie and Paul are fabulous.
Yeah, we do several of those, and we do these through the year as part of the community.
Okay, the reason I'm addressing this now, I happen to live across the street from the Jewish cemeteries, and there's a ballpark with a swimming pool. And from the swimming pool to the cemetery, there's an open space of dirt. Now I have piles of dirt, where we used to try to keep it nice and neat and clean. Well, it's becoming a drop-off for TVs, mattresses, box springs. So, under your program that you're instituting now, under contract and negotiating with the, I understand it has nothing to do with this company here, but it has something to do with the city of Woburn. Because the DPW comes on a regular basis for this one section of the ballpark. If you take B Street from Washington, drive down right next to the swimming pool, most Monday mornings, you're gonna find something that's been dumped. Last week it was a dump of bricks. The week before, do you feel, only an opinion, do you feel that this gonna, with this program here, as well as with the barrels, is this gonna increase in our back spaces in the city?
Potentially, yes.
Is
We'll
there,
have to pick up.
is there any way that the I know the DPW is limited in size. Is there anything that we can possibly do within our DPW space to be able to have somebody that has the ability to get an item other than what waste management is gonna do? Like a TV, does waste management gonna
Right now, I would say that the DPW has more than they can handle going to the various locations where people do dump things. We'll have to see how this plays out to see whether there's a need to actually expand what the DPW is capable of doing. We'll just have to see how this whole program plays out.
But my point is though, is if we get ahead of it, right? My thought is, if like in Winchester that I know of, that they have a swap shop that have their dump because they don't have trash pickup, which is understandable. But if at least with TVs, because nobody even wants flat screen TVs anymore. So now, instead of the DPW going out and collecting it for nothing and costing the city payroll for the DPW workers, there's no way that we could set something on a regular basis that Monday through Friday, or the
You
TVs,
mean that
at least.
people drop
Get
off
some,
free?
pay $20. No.
Yeah.
You have that at DPW?
We have it at Spence Farm.
Yeah, that's what, twice a year?
No, he does it April to December, April to November.
Hey, look,
Yeah, April to
You
November.
learned something at the 71 years. Thank God I came here. Yeah.
Yeah, he's been doing it
You may
for
never see me back here.
6 years or so, 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, I just like, well, you don't really want me up here sometimes, just to let you know. I can hold out meetings for hours.
All right,
If Darlene was here, she'd understand, she'd tell you the same thing. Let me just give me one more second, folks. I'll take it all off and write these out. I'm only kidding. I did it. And the seniors are gonna have the same size barrels?
They have the option to get smaller ones.
Okay.
Yep,
So,
64.
A person, thank you.
Yeah, so they just call us. We have a list already of who requested smaller recycling bins back in September. If they're on that list, we're gonna give them another call, ask if they want the smaller trash also, and then they would get the smaller trash barrel.
I have a little old lady in the neighborhood, she calls me.
Yep.
You know, she'll be calling me every week with a 96 gallon. Even if she has a tough time with her little barrel.
Yes, they have the option for the smaller.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome, thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. I'll leave it.
Oh, wow.
It's gonna get quiet about it right now. Thank you.
Nope.
One last question.
Mr. Callahan's back.
My assumption is that when I'm in this contract, the yard waste pickup station.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to be rude, but people on broadcast can't hear you. Do you mind stepping up to the microwave?
Bill, you're asking about the
Microphone.
The yard waste.
Passive authority.
Correct. So the yard waste pickup schedule will remain the same. I will tell you that there's a provision in this contract that allows for the city to save upwards of $160,000, $170,000 a year if we institute a location within the city where waste management can bring the yard waste that they currently pick up, and instead of having to truck it out of town and pay all that, dump it here in Woburn where we would then manage it. There is a provision where we can take advantage of that. Yes. We're exploring that. We're actually working with Councilor DeMambo up in North Woburn. There's a potential site that we've been looking at. We're not going to rush into it, but we're actively trying to determine if that's something that'll work for the city.
I hope that would be more than 168,000 savings.
No, this is just to have them not truck it out of town. They're still picking it up on the same schedule. Everything's the same. They're just bringing it, they would just be bringing it to our site instead of trucking it elsewhere. Yes, so that's why that's the appropriate figure.
You would still put it curbside, that won't change.
Yeah, you wouldn't know the difference.
Yeah.
They'd just be bringing it up there. And it might get asked as a follow-up question of that, would there ever be the opportunity for residents to bring their yard waste to a location in Woburn and not wait for the pickup? That's on the table as well. We have a location we're looking at, but again, I look at Lou, we're working closely to try to identify whether we can do it in a way that works for the city, works for the neighbors in that area, works for the residents. We want to make sure it's a good plan, not a quick plan. So, thanks.
I like the addresses.
Bill Verdoge, I live on Briscoe Street in Woburn. I think the public should be aware that, the mayor did say, we got the best pricing possible, the best value possible. But the city did not go out to bid on this contract, which is required under the Uniform Procurement Act. And, think devil's advocate, I tried to find, shop around for something that would tell me, oh, no, I don't have to do it. I mean, there's certainly no sole source criteria in there. It's not an emergency. There's no acts of God that's requiring it. So I really feel as though the city did a disservice to the residents by not going out to bid on this. And I would be curious to see what the selection of source documentation, if any was even filled out, says. Maybe Waste Management is the best value. They're a big corporation, and I'm sure that the automation benefits are a great benefit to them, but also we need a contract that's a benefit to us. And even if there was a way around this bidding process, let's let the state take a look at it and figure out if it's correct. Regardless, it's a big disservice not to go out to bid on this. What if it was just $1 million? We can get somebody else for $1 million less.
As we do with any purchase, any contract, we talk with, obviously, the department that oversees that type of activity. We talked with the city solicitor, and we talked with the city's purchasing agent, procurement officer, Orazio DeLuca. All the guidance was sought. This was the appropriate process to extend this contract. Again, we can disagree, but I can assure you that I spoke with the city's attorney, the procurement officer, and the department involved. This was the appropriate process.
Where's the justification? Is there a written justification for this, and they know the utmost certainty that they get the
Yes.
best price?
That was the guidance I was given,
The
yes.
state rolled in. And
Absolutely.
this isn't something where, you know, people can make phone calls, and, you know, the state's gonna have to go and provide an official report indicating that this was okay.
I would encourage you to reach out to the purchasing agent, Orazio DeLuca, if you'd like.
Acceptable. They shirk their responsibilities.
I don't believe they did, sir. Thank you.
17 million, this is a $17 million contract. 17 million, okay? Most of us here have just received an enormous tax increase in the mail the last couple of cycles. So we want some accountability. I'm not questioning the ability of Waste Management to do a good job, they do a good job, okay? I don't know if it's the best price, I don't know if it's the best value. I don't know if next week your management's gonna change and all of a sudden everything's gonna go to you know what. But this needed to go out to bid, that's unacceptable, we did the taxpayers a great disservice.
Giving you my answers.
Okay, I want to see some accountability. Thank you.
Thank you.
You know exactly where I stand. Pam Boris, 85 Willow Street. I am concerned that, you know, larger families, larger households, that there wasn't some allocation of extra bins in the calculation, that there weren't some being available. That's an oversight. And that should be corrected because large households have less money to go around, and that extra money, you know, for the rental of a bin that they're required to have is hard. So I would suggest that that's reflawed. And if we are saving money, then we can allocate some extra money for the people who need that extra bin because of large household size. The other thing is, I'm a senior, and my kids have been saying, "Mom, downsize," and I'm like, "But I love it." Now, I'm not the only senior in Woburn, and I can't afford to, you know, downsizing is not something that's usually done all at once. But $28 an item? You know, I'll have to die with my stuff because I can't afford to do that. Now, I could afford to put, you know, maybe one item out at a time on this, you know, or, you know, are we still allowed to put items out on the sidewalk for people to take? I know some towns don't allow that.
We have not prohibited that.
Good. Because, you know, what I call the neighborhood recycling is a bonus. But, yeah, you want to think about things that will stop. You'll end up with people in hoarding situations because they can't afford to get rid of items. People with children outgrow their toys. You know, their big wheels and their kitchen sets, and, you know, stuff that ends up in boxes like this, and they might be in an apartment and they don't have the space to live with it, and they can't afford to pay for the trash to take it because it won't fit their bin. So, I think you have to rethink some of the human scale of this. And there was another good comment about the cost of bins. If I was to drive around to a wholesaler in, say, the middle of Massachusetts and find the exact same bin, could I buy that exact same bin if it was a different color and use it?
No.
Why?
Because like I had mentioned before, Waste Management is responsible for the bins that are out in front of your house. If they break, if the wheels fall off, if the lids fall off, if you decide to buy a barrel that's even the same quality and something breaks on it, then you're on the hook for replacing it yourself.
Right, but if it was my barrel, and they pick it up and they break it, that's fine. I'm not paying the $175 a year.
Well, I mean, some people would say that. We have gotten a lot of calls about Waste Management breaking barrels, and, you know, in the
Well,
past,
but
they have.
that's their barrel, and we're not paying the.
No, these were other residents. Before this rollout, you know, if a resident called and said, Waste Management broke my barrel, they would call Waste Management, they would put in a claim with them, and Waste Management would be responsible for replacing the barrel. With Waste Management providing barrels of a certain quality and being responsible for replacing them or repairing them, if you were to put out that same barrel and Waste Management broke it, it's on your dime.
There has to be a middle ground. There has to be a middle ground found, because, you know, people either have to, you know, spend, you know, about $180 a year for an extra barrel. Or maybe I can go, you know, up someplace and find it for $50 or $70 because they wholesale these things. And
There's also the issue of uniformity, where the truck is built a certain way.
Yes, I know.
To pick up a certain barrel, as much as we might think the barrel you find at Costco is the exact
no, I'm not
same
talking
one,
about Costco. I'm talking about going to the wholesaler.
It might not be the same exact barrel. And if I could, just real quick, to answer the earlier question or concern, I believe, I understand the notion of a large family. I have 5 kids myself. And so I understand.
Right.
But when we made the decision on how to implement this and what contractual provisions to put in, we had to look at the greater good, the average, and what most people in Woburn are going to likely need.
Right.
So what we said was, should we have everybody pay a little bit more, even if they don't need it? Or should we have them pay what we think is reasonable and average and typical and standard? And then if there's a few, or more than a few, but several people who need something else, perhaps they bear the burden of something else.
Or-
That was the Cowboys.
Well, that's one way of looking at it. The other way is setting aside a certain number of extra barrels.
And that raises the cost,
And
and that has to be shared by everybody. We are trying to keep the cost down. But we did think, I'm sure you thought of it, and this was the decision we came up with. If this rolls out and we're learning different
Right.
things, we're more than happy to rethink things. I'm just telling you, we did think of it, considered it, and this is what we settled on. If we miss the mark, we will try to fix it, but it was done thoughtfully and
I'm
intentionally.
not doubting
Yeah.
that. But the average is never the truth.
Well,
Right?
we had to find something
No,
that we thought was
I
as
understand.
consistent across the board.
I understand, but the, you know, when you look at the average is never the true experience. You're more likely to have lots of 1 or 2 family households and then lots of.
What we really said was, most people in the world,
Yes.
are they likely
And
to
it's,
use one big bucket or 2?
right.
And we felt that most people in Woburn would likely use the one big bucket, and a
And-
few that might need more. And again, there are some people who will only need one bucket 50 weeks of the year.
Yes.
And then they'll have a graduation party or a Christmas party, and they'll go buy some bags and accommodate.
Yeah, and that's fine, but for people who need, you know, 2 barrels will be as it is, and they're already using like a large barrel, you know, that's something. Or, you know, but maybe there's some sort of solution to be.
We'll continue to watch it, but that was the thought that went into this decision.
I would just
Okay,
like
just
to add,
remind you that the cost of these barrels is not just about the barrel physically, it's about the service pickup. So even if you went out and bought your own barrel and there was a mechanism to do that, that wouldn't cost the extra labor to pick it up, and that's built into the price. Debatable whether we will learn across the way whether it's the right number, but that is why, one of the reasons we can't just go buy your other own cart, because we are assuming additional labor costs of picking up the second and additional disposal costs as well. So I don't know, waste management, if you want to kind of comment on the 3 components there.
oh, I missed,
Do you want me to repeat it?
yes.
So Pam was asking, why can't I go get another cart?
Yes, and you said
Megan
it.
talked a little bit about the mechanics of the cart, but that price includes 3 components, not just the cart. I thought it might be helpful for people to understand whether it's the right price or not, and we're going to learn a bunch of stuff. There are multiple pieces to it.
Yeah, it's also the cost of collection. It's also the cost of the driver dumping the extra cart, the time he needs to stay at that house to dump multiple carts.
And the disposal as well, right?
Yeah.
So I asked Chris to bring this slide back up because I hear all of what you say, and I'm a huge recycler myself, thankfully, after being in this business for so long. We actually produce more recycling than we do trash. There are some people that have been very creative, and someone mentioned about if they chop something up and get in an overflow bag or get in your barrel. Absolutely. That's the whole point, right? I heard some of you talk about upcycling, recycling, putting people out for people to share. There are different ways to minimize your trash. It has to go out. And then definitely to figure out a way to keep your recycling out of your trash. Because if we go back, part of this initiative, we follow the guidelines, as does the city, for the Massachusetts DEP. There are regulations on what can be disposed of and following the proper recycling to try and save, if anything ends up, whether in landfill space or if it's going to a trash to energy plant. So if you can, this web address is already on the sit-down website, I think. So just great creative ideas on how to keep things, to minimize your trash output, honestly.
Yeah, no, I put up my trash the other week.
Yep.
And my recycling is usually 3/4 full, but there are some families,
Absolutely.
you know.
Yep. The toys struck a chord with me, those big bulky plastic things.
Depends, or big families with diapers. There are certain things that are just bulkier by nature,
For sure.
and, that can be a hardship for the family.
I do think people will be surprised on how much trash you can fit in a 96-gallon cart. We've heard this repeatedly on the different contracts that we convert. So maybe, everyone give it a chance to see how you do before you go out and get an extra cart.
Like when they say their address.
Hi, good evening. I'm Jim Joyce, 90 Mission Road, Woburn. Thank you for this. I appreciate this very much. Mayor Concanon, this is a great program. I fully support it for all the reasons, and I'm not going to get into any budgetary concerns, but I am going to say that from an environmental impact position, which I'm very concerned about, very interested in. I'm a member of the Woburn Conservation Commission. I also have a nonprofit group that's a conservation group too in Woburn, the Friends of Horn Pond. And we look at recycling debris, trash debris that gets into our stormwater systems that winds up down in Horn Pond or in the Abashana River. And I will tell you that from the advent of the recycling program, since that started, we've seen a marked decrease in the amount of recycling material that we find in the stormwater systems and which wind up down in these different waterways. So that's been a big plus for that. And we track it using a data app so that we have data on this. We're going to do the same thing with the trash as well. So because my hope is that we're going to see a marked decrease in the amount of trash that gets blown over in bins, low bins, that gets blown over, bags are open, gets into the roads, blows down into the stormwater system, and then winds up in the bodies of water that we're paying attention to. So we'll be looking at that very closely. We'll be collecting data on it too. We can feed that data back to the city so that we can, it's a data point and you can use it to make any adjustments in the program that you need to. But I fully support this. This is a real welcoming change. I do have two questions. One, I always had this question, and my wife Patty's here, she asked this too. The trash collection, how is it disposed of? Is that incinerated at some point? I don't know how. I always ask the question, what do we do with the trash?
Typically, it goes to a waste-to-energy facility, yes.
Okay, perfect.
Trash to energy.
Perfect. And the second thing was, what do we do with bags that folks are gonna put on the street that either didn't get the message, or they're not using the approved bag, but they just put it down anyway, is there going to be some kind of a grace period with that? Or is it just gonna sit on the road? How is that gonna work?
So usually when that does happen, we get the call saying they've missed my trash. And then we'll kind of go through the normal questions. Well, did you have it inside the bin? Well, no, I put it beside it. Well, unfortunately, everything has to fit inside the bin unless you've purchased the overflow bags, which will be orange and have the city of Woburn seal on them. So Waste Management will know those are the ones that you purchased from a store. And then we would just kind of explain to them for next week, make sure it's inside of inside the barrel.
All right, that works. So that'll be great.
Mhm.
So like I say, and I'll end it with this, but, so we'll be keeping a watch on how much is dumped off, because I know the dumping concern very well. We see it all the time. We'll kind of keep an eye on, are we going to see an increase in the amount of dumping that we see in these places? We can collect data on that too, and just to make sure that we all have it. Okay? Thank you very much.
No, thank you.
Thank you. Big fan of Horn Pond, by the way. I walk there.
I have a funny story about Horn Pond.
No, I
No.
mean, like it was stated before, the week of June 23rd, the barrels will be rolled out to your residents, just like the recycling bins were. If you requested a smaller bin at the beginning, like I mentioned, we will reach out to you ahead of time, see if you want the smaller bin for trash. You'll get that at the same time everybody else is getting their larger bins. It's gonna be a little different than the recycling. You know, recycling kind of came up quick, so if you
Yeah.
want a smaller bin, that'll be done at the same time. You will have the option, you'll see on the flyer when it comes to your house, the beginning of June, to lease a second trash bin right away, if you choose to. Like I had mentioned to a lot of people when they called back before the recycling toters, came out, why don't you give it like 2 weeks, see if you actually do need that bin, because unfortunately, if you do go for the second trash toter initially, you own it for a year. You can't give it back. So, I kind of tell people, give it a shot, see what you can fit. I believe it should fit about 4, maybe 5 large trash bags. Obviously, if you need a second bin, you're welcome to do so right away, or you can give it a couple weeks and see how it goes.
So with that, thank you very much. Appreciate the information. Thank you all for being here. Again, we have a rolling FAQ page. We'll incorporate some of what we heard tonight. Yes? Sure.
Oh, yes.
My mom's asking, since you give the elderly the smaller bin, is the cost for a second one smaller, different than the 165 for the large bin? If you need it.
Someone wants a second bin. and they want
But
it-
the small size.
What's the price of that?
I don't know if we ever thought of that scenario, because I would think you would go smaller because you don't produce as much. So if you produce a lot, you might as well keep the bigger one, because you can,
I meant if I have a big one.
oh, and you want to lease the 6,
If I needed
Just, yeah, she doesn't want to.
yeah, we're not going to,
two big ones, if I just needed one big one and one small one, is the price for the small one the same as it would be for the big one? If I got two big?
Or does that need to be scoped out?
that would have to be scoped out, because we don't have that scenario
Good question.
built
We
out.
can do that. Yeah.
And I can order a second recycle bin anytime, right?
Yep,
Okay, anytime, whenever I call you, I call.
it's right on
Starting
the-
June 1st, if
No,
you,
no,
yeah,
recycle.
oh, okay, yeah,
It's
okay.
right on the calendar.
Here to see if we need one,
Yeah.
with this change, we're done.
It's right on the calendar that gets mailed to the house.
Okay.
It's right on the back, the number
And
too.
that information's on the Woburn website?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, I'll go on this.
Yep. So again,
Bags, can they be used for the recycle as well as the trash?
No, it's only trash. Yes,
No bags with the recycling.
because you can't put plastic bags in recycling.
But Dennis, I wouldn't want the person on the phone when this flag goes out.
Put our best
That'll be
person on
me,
it.
Mr. Callahan.
9,973 people get the flag.
Yeah.
Well-
And they did an admirable job with the recycle rollout, and we expect they'll be able to handle it as well. We do understand this is change, and change is different, and a lot of people maybe aren't as tuned in right now to what's going on, and it will be a surprise to them, but I do trust that they'll be able to handle those
And one final
professionally.
Yep.
Our old barrels, will you take them away the last day they're not eligible to use?
Ooh,
Yeah.
I should have,
Oh, yeah.
I should have talked about that. So, yes.
They took the recyclable
Yeah, so-
ones away.
This year is gonna be, this rollout will be a little different to start, so it's a,
You can either call, if you want us to take your old barrel, you can either call 1-800 number or go online and you put your address in, you click bulk, you click old barrel, old recycling bin. It's going to be no cost to the resident, and we'll come by on Monday and we'll take it.
And that's all on the website.
Yeah, and that will be on the flyer you get too.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, only on
because
Mondays.
that's gonna be the bulk day.
And we're gonna we will be giving the residents that option for a couple of months, because you might want to reuse it for something. Like, my parents live in Woburn, I'm from Woburn originally too, and my father's trying to figure out what to do with his old bins. Like, can he put yard waste in it? Can he put salt in it? Yeah.
Okay? Sir, did you have a question?
Thank you.
Just thinking, I don't know what waste management has for tools, but I know that there's a town, and they have, one of the biggest problems with yard waste is the leaves in the fall. Everybody's leaves, trees are falling. In this town, they tell all the people to push their leaves once a month to the curb, and then they have a suction truck that comes and
So,
sucks it all up and shreds it at the same time. I don't know if that's
doing the
a
more
feasible
stirring.
thing for waste management. I don't even know if they have a truck that does that.
I don't know, maybe.
I used to live in Connecticut many, many moons ago, and I used to do that as well, but we are doing the traditional method in the area. I mean, anything is open to negotiation.
Yeah.
We can look at all of that.
Is these bags, you put them out, and then it rains.
Yep.
Never
No.
fails, and it's going to rain the day before and the day of. Waste, you know, and of course, they go to pick them up and they break. You know, and then when you shove them on like that, they don't last.
But now you can use your old trash barrel to put the leaves out on the curb, so the bag won't get wet.
I do.
Oh, there you go.
I have 5 barrels coming out
Yeah.
tomorrow, okay? And of course, it rained yesterday, and now heavy those barrels are now.
Yep. This is why we're going automated.
Okay, so I look at it that way, but I don't know what kind of equipment you people have, but the thought of like, when you hire a landscaper in the fall, they'll come by with their truck, they clean up the whole yard, they push everything to the curb, and then their own trucks, they have like a suction tank, it's almost like an 18-inch diameter thing, and it just comes along and sucks it all up. And it shreds it at the same time and goes into the truck. And then they take it over to the public dump that we have over here, and they dump it over there.
That's not something we currently have. We can look at it, but we don't have it.
Well, actually, it's really, you can't do it because we don't have the equipment. They might have the equipment.
Yeah, and that would lead to an additional cost, of
That's in the
course.
future.
Yeah, we could look at that concept. But anyway, seeing as it's after 7, if there aren't any more questions, I would say thank you all for being here. And we do understand that this is change. Change isn't easy, but I think if we all work together, we can get through this, and it'll be just fine. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.